Hello everyone, welcome back. Hope all is well. I know it's been like a 5 month hiatus since my last video, but long story short, I was at Penn State. We can rent cameras for free, but long since then I've been graduated, so I didn't really have access to a camera or the finances to buy a camera. But instead of making excuses for this amount of time, my friend Will was just like, bro, you have an iPhone X, just record off of there. And I was like, no, you're right. I've been making excuses for 5 months, way too long. So now I'm back, and hopefully soon I'll be able to, get a nice camera and start doing things I want to do. I'm bougie, so I like doing things a certain way. I don't even have a haircut right now, so I'm really stepping out my comfort zone. But some things you just have to do regardless of your appearance in life. I guess to catch up with where I've been, I'm in Houston now. I'm filming inside of my Houstonian apartment. I'm a Houston resident. It's my favorite city, so I'm really glad to be here, and I'm very fortunate enough to land a job here. So some other things. I've been going to Lakewood Church. I was in Houston last summer, and I was going to Lakewood Church, but this past Sunday I actually officially joined the church, like through all the registration and paperwork. And so yeah, I was on Wednesday, and I joined their Monday night Bible study. I also joined their anger management ministry, their depression ministry. I joined their financial ministry, and I also joined I'm volunteering with their Celebrate Recovery ministry. It's kind of like their addiction monthly programs will kind of help people overcome their addictions and stuff. So I'm really excited about that. On October 4th will be my 5 month anniversary of sobriety. So I'm really excited about that. And they also gave me this Bible. They gave it to all usually people who, choose Christ as their Lord and Savior. But since I was just officially joining the church, they gave me this too. And I realized that I didn't have a Bible in my house. We kind of live in the age, we're in the digital age, so I have, my Bible app, but I just realized that I should really have a physical element to my spiritual faith. And I encourage you all, if you are spiritual, to get a Bible. You don't have to read it. It can be anywhere in your house, but I think having a physical piece of weaponry at your disposal in this warfare that we face in the spiritual realm is very crucial in our lives. Also, I just want to give a shout out to Troy. His clothing brand, Small Wins, that I'm rocking right here. I think it's very important for us in life to enjoy the small wins. If you're battling through depression, just waking up and getting out of bed is a small win. I've been there, and I know sometimes getting out of bed is difficult. I think that sometimes we just want to hit our long-term goals in the short term, and that just doesn't happen. So appreciating the small wins of just, whether it's cooking or getting to work on time or finishing an assignment or just anything minuscule that we don't really take, that we don't really appreciate enough. I think really acknowledging those small wins, and then you'll realize that you really have a lot of more wins at your disposal than you really think. And that will just kind of uplift you and give you more self-esteem and self-empowerment. So like I said, I went to church on Wednesday. I moved to Houston on Monday, and something told me just to check if they're doing anything, and I saw that Pastor John Gray was coming. He's an associate pastor there. He has a church, and I think it's in North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, called Relentless Church. But he travels back and forth to speak. So I went, and if you're not in the news or up to date, I think there's a tropical storm or some type of system in the Gulf Coast. So it's been raining nonstop in Houston, on and off. And 2 days ago it was pretty bad. But Wednesday it was raining, not as bad as it was the other day, but it was pretty bad. And he was just applauding everyone who can make it out in the storm. And he was just saying that sometimes we get caught in storms in our life, but sometimes God will make a way, and we ourselves will make a way to get where we want to go, if we're passionate about it. and he was just saying that, he was. And it was another sermon I was watching online, and he was just saying how people, will stand in 95-degree heat, stand up for 3 hours straight, stay until the very end, and all this other stuff. When he was talking about people at football games. And I was like, you know what, you're right. We go to football games, we spend a lot of money at football games. People spend thousands, sometimes even six figures on seats, stand up the entire time for 3 hours, stay until the very end. And it was just like, sometimes we came and pay attention to church for longer than 10 minutes and not check our phones. So he was like, if we're passionate about something, we'll do what we want to do. So I think that it's time for myself as well, a lot of people, if you're passionate about your spiritual relationship, to start, acting the part and stop being a fake fan and actually being, a child of God. But I want to talk about, that's the message. Well, the essence of the storm is what I want to talk about today. Storms in your life. What do you do? We often talk about the perspective of storms and when we mess up. I messed up at school, and now I have to figure out a way to turn this D into a C, or this C into a B, or I messed up on this exam, or I messed up in this relationship. She caught me cheating, or he caught me cheating, or at a job you messed up on an assignment at a job, and you feel discouraged, or just anything in your life that you mess up in, and you're in a storm. You got to battle through and to get through. But what happens when you're in a storm? When when you're perfect, not perfect, but you're just a good person. You obey you read the Bible, you go to church, you submit your tithes and your offering. You're just a good person. You're a good Samaritan. You help people, old ladies across the street. You hold the door open for women. Just anything. You're just an overall good person. And what happens when you obey everything that God has told you to do, and you're still caught in a storm? What happens when you're a good person and you get raped, or you're sexually assaulted or sexually molested? What happens when you're a good worker and you get fired or laid off unexpectedly? What happens when you're in perfect health and you're diagnosed with cancer, or you're diagnosed with diabetes? What happens when your relationship is perfect and healthy and from your perspective, and one day they just don't want to be with you anymore, or they leave you, or y'all are just battling it out? Or what happens when your loved ones or one of your friends are in perfect health and they just unexpectedly die? The list can go on and on. What do you do when you're caught in a storm unexpectedly with no umbrella? What do you do? And I'm not talking about a spiritual or physical storm. I'm talking about a spiritual storm. What happens when you're in your life, when spiritually, mentally, you're challenged and you're caught with no umbrella? What do you do? Personally, I was caught in a storm not too long ago. Graduating from college, from the spring semester till midsummer, or I guess to July, I applied to about roughly, give or take, over 200 jobs through LinkedIn and through websites directly, give or take about around 200. And from those 200 applications, I maybe got 5 interviews, and from those 5 interviews, I probably got to the final round of interviews in 2 of those companies. And one company never got back to me. They actually got back to me 2 or 3 weeks ago, saying they weren't going to offer me a job, and the other company just was taking their time. So this entire time, I had no answers. I'm graduating, and I'm an out-of-state student, so in the back of my mind, I just have my debt in the back of my mind. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking, and I was starting to get down and out, depressed, and the constant rejection emails. Was just I was getting rejection of phone calls too, and it was just like, usually when you get a phone call, you think that you get an offer or something, but it's like, those are low blows, and it was just like, I was in a spiritual storm. I was a good person, good student, turned my life around, got baptized, started doing these videos. I just felt like my life was on a good track. It was just helping others, and it was just like, wow, like what's going on? Like, why is everyone else getting jobs and moving on and getting promotions and getting money and doing all these things that they want to do in life, and I'm just here, just with nothing? And it was difficult for me, and And then one day, boom, I got an internship letter. Um, and then, long story short, the HR team, they made a mistake, and I was fired before I even got the job, or before my first day at work, because they made a mistake, and I was the scapegoat. And I'm not gonna get into too much detail about it, but it was just like, wow, I finally get some good news, finally get some finances in my pocket, because I've been unemployed for this entire year. And before my first day, I get fired. It was just like, and the thing is that they told me not to come to work the first day, so I didn't. And they told me I couldn't come to work until their paperwork was finished. And then a week and a half later is when I got my termination letter. And it was just like, what did I do wrong? Like, why is this all happening to me? I was in a really spiritual storm. I was getting depressed. I was getting angry at everyone. The girl I was talking to heavy, I was getting angry at her. I was getting angry at my mom. I was getting angry at my close friends. I was just getting angry at everyone. It was just like, I was just mad. And, I've been trying so hard to keep my anger, my depression, my anxiety, and the stress under control since, 1 to 2 years, since 1 to 2 years ago. And it was just like all that work and progress that I was doing was, you know, was being slowly stripped away from me. And I just felt my old self coming back. And, I had the urge to start drinking again. It was just like, why is all this happening? Then, I was just, I was at the dinner out to eat with my mom, and she was just like, you know what, just focus on what you can control and focus on what you have to do. The job will come, the finances will come, the money will come. Just focus on what you had to do. And that's what I had to do. I was still taking some online summer classes, so I just kind of dedicated all my time to that. I applied to some jobs here and there, but I wasn't focused on that anymore. It was just like, I need, the job is the end goal. I still had the things in my life that I needed to get done right then and there. So that's what I did. I kind of shift focus a little bit, scale back from the job search, focus more on my studies. And July 26th, I believe, 3 days after my birthday, I get a phone call. And I get an offer. I just couldn't refuse. And not only that, it was a company that I really wanted to work for. And it was in the city of my dreams, which is Houston. And it was that, like I said, the two companies that gave me got to the final round, it was that company. And I just remember just, crying tears. It was like, all this hard work finally paid off. And it was just like, I just never expected any of this. And what's crazy is that this same company I applied to a year ago and got denied. So I want to reiterate this, that sometimes a no is a redirection from God. Sometimes a no is something God is telling you no because I have something better for you. I had this job. I applied for this job last year. I got rejected. Fast forward to this internship that I had. This internship was located in Baltimore, but I had offices in Houston. So I wanted to work there. Hopefully I get a full-time offer and then somebody probably work in Baltimore for 1 or 2 years and transfer to Houston. That was my goal. I like thinking stuff in advance. So I thought my life was set. And then when that told me no, I was like, and then when I got this job, which told me yes, it was like this entire time, I was supposed to land this job or with this company. It was just a matter of time for me to get there. And that's why God told me no, or God ultimately didn't want me working at that company because he knew I wouldn't be happy there. He knew the people there would mistreat me. And I wouldn't like my life where we're in Baltimore anymore. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was always supposed to be with this company in Houston. And another twist is that God was still working on me. He needed to break me down just a little bit further. He needed to re-humble me. I was already humbled already, and he had to re-humble me again. He had to work through me. And sometimes God has so much blessings for you that he has to make sure that you're ready for his blessings. A lot of people, we get athletes or other people who take on lots of money, they can quickly go bankrupt or broke in a couple of years. Not saying they don't deserve those blessings or anything that they got them. And then they, either they got depressed, they commit suicide, they go broke, bankrupt, or any other, mishap and happens in their life. They couldn't take on all those blessings because they weren't prepared for it. And I'm not just trying to single out those people, but there's a lot of people in life who get a lot of blessings or a lot of things in their life that come on and they're not expected to. They don't know how to handle all that, and they end up losing all that. So I think God was working through me And there's a lot of you in here who are going through this phase that I was going through. Of God's working on you. He's molding you. He's trying to make you a better, stronger person. So when the time is right, you can get all the blessings that He has promised for you, and you will be okay with living with them, and you will be able to not only acquire them but utilize them for yourself and pass those blessings on to others, so everyone who's connected to it, connected with you. So now I want to get into the message. Sorry I was on a ramble, but I just wanted to reiterate my story and kind of touch someone who's going through the difficult time that I was going through. That no's are just redirections. There's a purpose for your no. There's a purpose for your enemies. It's okay to receive a no in life. There's other things in your life that you have to be focused on, whether it's your daily objectives, your weekly objectives, whether it's school or your job that you're currently at, or taking care of your family, your friends. You still have things that you have to take care of. Focus on what you can control and can control what you could control. Control the controllables, as Inky Jonto from Twitter would say. Control the controllables. You can't control the weather. You can't control your boss. You can't control your friends or your family or enemies out there. You can only control what you can control. So when you do that, you shift that focus mentality. Don't worry about, you're stressing over things that you can't control, and all that extra stress and energy and anxiety that you have, you're taking that energy away from yourself when you can use that same energy to put it back into yourself and put it into the things that you have to focus on right now, right today. So I just wanted to get that out and reiterate it. But to focus back on the message of no umbrella, of being caught in a storm with no umbrella. Sometimes we live our lives in a boat. We live our lives, imagine, the whole world, everything going on in our lives is the water. And we're in a boat and we're safe. We're safe and sound. We don't want to go too far out. We don't want to go too far out from shore. We don't want to go too far in the deep. We don't want to get into the water because we don't know what's in the water. We're safe in a boat. And sometimes when we do that, we confine ourselves. We restrict ourselves. We limit ourselves from all the other blessings in life, all the other opportunities, and all the experiences that we can experience, and all the other people that we can meet in life. And sometimes we want God to come in our boat. We want God, okay, God, come into my boat and expand my life. Well, you're confined to the parameters of the boat, to the dimensions of the boat. You can't really do much. So we want God to come into the boat, but sometimes God wants us to come out of the boat. So when that happens are you ready to walk on water? Are you ready to plunge into the water? Are you ready to start swimming out in the water, to farther out into the deep end, to explore the world, to explore all the possibilities, the doors open to you, the relationships, the networks, the people that you can meet? Are you ready to, to take on that? Are you ready to go out of the boat and swim in the ocean when storms come? There's a difference between being caught in a storm in a boat, and being caught in a storm without a boat, without an umbrella. Are you ready to go through that? And if you're not ready to go through that, then you're robbing yourself of the future that's ahead of you, the future that's promised to you. Now I want to introduce a quote by Edward D. Bono. Sometimes the situation is only a problem because it is looked at in a certain way. Looked at in another way, the right course of action may be so obvious that the problem no longer exists. Sometimes God will slow you down so the obstacles and the blockades that are in front of you in your path will be washed away. That will be removed in your life. That's why sometimes I wanted to say that I know is a redirection. Sometimes, just to simplify things, it's like traffic, for instance. I used to have anger management when I was a kid, but I'm relatively calm now. But if I sit in traffic for more than 15 seconds, I get angry, or if someone cuts me off, I get angry. But sometimes you being slowed down in traffic prevents you from an accident that may be waiting or occurring 5 minutes ahead of you, or 30 seconds ahead of you, or that drunk driver, that person who's texting. Sometimes in life, God slows you down so He can remove things that's ahead of you in your life. That when you get there, you'll be affected by it. But He's slowing you down so when He can take His time to remove those things. So by the time you get to that point, you're clear and free. That's why sometimes that job that you want is the process is delayed longer. They say they'll get back to you, and you're waiting for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and finally you get that acceptance letter. Or sometimes colleges don't get back to you right on time, or sometimes that DM you sent that girl, she's not replying, but she'll reply in 1 or 2 weeks and be, oh, hey, I saw this. And sometimes that you might have moved on already by that, or sometimes that might be your perfect partner. You never know. So that's why sometimes the delay in the process is a blessing. It's a blessing in disguise. And sometimes we don't really think about, the delay being like a hidden blessing. Sometimes, it's the same way like with a delay in your job process or a delay in like in a relationship. Sometimes you may be single for a long time, but sometimes God is making you be single for a long time so you can find your right king and your queen. Instead of you sometimes hopping in out of a relationship and wonder why everything's aren't lasting or ending so quickly or just being very toxic and negative, is because sometimes God doesn't want you just to try and find relationships on your own. Sometimes he wants you to listen to him and speak to him and follow his plans and follow his steps and finally find your right king and the queen that's been looking for you this entire time. Sometimes in life you have to go through something in order to be the individual that God wants you to become. The same water that softens a potato hardens an egg. It's not about the circumstances, it's about what you're made of. Both objects are put in hot water, but both objects come out different. How do you respond? How do you respond? How do you survive in hot water? When the pressure is on, when the heat rises, when you're caught in a storm, how do you respond? How do you react? How do you overcome it? Do you sit and get drenched, or do you drown? Do you just give up, or are you gonna persevere and push through? It's not the circumstances, it's what you're made of. And sometimes God has to put you through certain things for you to realize that, you're not going to elevate, you don't go certain places, you don't transform, you don't improve yourself from comfort. You don't improve yourself from being confined in a boat. You have to get out, you have to experience the world. And when you experience the world, when you go through trials and tribulations and hardships, you become self-empowered. Your self-esteem increases. Your abilities enhance. You look back, you don't look like the storms you've gone through elementary school, middle school, through high school, through college, through relationships, through jobs, all of your trials and tribulations or storms you've gone through. You don't look like any of those. A week after, or 2 weeks, or a month, or a year after, you look amazing. You look better. I love the compliment. You look happy. I love the compliment. You look happy. I know before last year when I was going through my depression and my alcoholism, before I went to Houston and after I went to Houston, when I got back, I just got these all compliments that you look happy, you look great. What's going on? Why are you so happy? And I just felt like, what, I've finally overcome the hump. I finally overcome that the weight of depression, the spirits of depression and anxiety and stress on my life. It was finally good to see that all that hard work and that I was doing in Houston by myself, of going to church, reading the Bible every day, reading sermons every day, doing all these spiritual depression workshops online, and reading and writing and all these things to help get my mental right and stronger and stronger. All that hard work was paid off. It wasn't paid off by a financial reward. It was paid off by a simple compliment. You look happy, and that's all I wanted. That reassurance of that all my hard work and dedication paid off too. I look like a better, healthier person, paid off, and it just uplifted me. Now I want to introduce some scripture that kind of ties into what I'm trying to say. James chapter 1 verse 2 through 4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let this perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And I love that last verse, not lacking anything. And that's why we have to look at things from a different lens in life. When we're going through trials and tribulations, it's not about we're taking it from the other side, from only one side. There's two sides to every coin. You can look at it from the side of just the pain and why has this happened to me, what's going on. You start comparing your lives to other people on social media. You start comparing lives to your other friends and family. Like, why can I be like them? Why can't my life be like that? Why is all this happening to me? Or you look from the other side. What can I do after this? Okay, I have these cards that I'm dealt with. How can I use this to my best advantage? How can I use the resources that I have at my disposal in my favor? For example, I wouldn't be doing any of these videos if I didn't look at it from the other side. When my best friend, when my mentor, my counselor, my psychologist, when he died, he was a perfectly healthy, male, perfectly healthy 40s or 50s, and when he died from a heart attack, it was just like, the person who's been the only person in my life who's never scolded me, who's never counted me out, who's always uplifted me, who's always told me it's not okay, you're not finished, you can always turn everything around. The only person who's told me, okay, you did this, all right, so what do it's not the end of your race. You're still running, you still have a marathon to go. The only person who's never counted me out, who's always uplifted me, was taken away from my life. And I'm not trying to shun my friends or my family or anything like that, but a lot of times friends and family, they just get so down on you and hard on you that they just scold you, they want to punish you, or just want to just talk down on you. You'd be like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, you're not doing that. And sometimes you do need that in your life. That's not what I'm trying to say. Sometimes you do need those people in your life. But he's that one person who always had a gentle spirit, who always could always stop me crying, who can always tell me it's not over. And what did I do when I was caught in a storm back then with no umbrella? It was just like, can I just grieve about it? Can I just be sad about it? Could I not go to work? Can I not, just be associate with my friends and family anymore? What can I do? And I took the cards that I was dealt with, and I took his death, and I turned it into this. I turned it into me wanting to help other people to keep his legacy alive. I started doing these videos. I started doing life groups on my campus. I had to do all this so I can keep his legacy alive, so I don't fall in grief, so I don't fall back into depression. And now I'm doing this. I'm doing something that a newfound passion of mine that I never thought I would ever do in my life. And that's why you always have to look at it. There's two sides to every coin. You have to look at the other side of things. Now I want to kind of introduce another Bible verse. And sometimes in life storms are often dark, and a lot of times we get whether it's a storm or just darkness that we're in, we get down and out. We get discouraged. We fall in a trap and a snare, and we become, easy prey for Satan to come and attack, and for other enemies out there to come and attack and pick on us. And I want to read it. It's Isaiah 45:3. I will give you the treasures of darkness and the hidden riches of secret places, that you may know that I, the Lord, who call you by your name, am the God of Israel. And I just think that's so powerful, the treasures of darkness. Darkness is not a thing, it's a void. You can feel complete darkness when the room is lit. And I'm not talking about physical, I'm talking about spiritual, emotional, mental. You can be around your friends and your family and feel complete darkness. You can be at a job and feel completely dark. You can be walking on campus and feel completely dark. You'll be walking on a sidewalk, it'll be completely sunny night, cloud in the sky, can feel completely darkness. But there's treasures in the darkness that you need to realize. There's treasures in the darkness that God has for you that is in a secret place that you can only get there if you listen to his word and you stay 10-toed down and you just persevere through the darkness. Light shines the brightest in the darkness. The stars shine brightest in the sky at night. So if you can realize that and shift your mentality to that, you can get through anything in your life. You just have to turn on the light. You just have to look for the light. You just have to follow the light. And when you do that, everyone else around you in the darkness, whether it's your friends, families, or even complete strangers, when they see you going toward reaching out of the transition from darkness to light, when they see that, you're not only uplifting yourself, you're uplifting them to give them the hope and give them the courage and the self-empowerment to get through whatever they're going through too. We're all connected in life, whether it's friends, family, or strangers. We're all connected. And you see it on Twitter. You see when people post cancer survival tweets or people overcoming anything in life. You just see it, and then that motivates you, that uplifts you. I always retweet and like tweets or Instagram posts of people overcoming obstacles in life because it gives me self-encouragement. Sometimes it just makes me feel as I'm more blessed. I've gone through a lot of things in life, and I think, wow, my life is a mess. My life is pretty bad. And I look at other people, and I'm just like, my life could be just as bad as theirs, or even worse. And it was just like, I have so much to be thankful for that my life isn't worse off. And that's why it's so important to realize that there's treasures in darkness that from your current perspective in the moment, it's hard to see and hard to realize that. But when we shift our focus on our lens, we can find them. And you may ask, what are treasures of darkness? Same way how photos are developed in the dark and created to beautiful works of art, It's the same way God's developing you. Sometimes certain things in life can only be developed in darkness. The most beautiful gift God has given us in this life is childbirth. And just think about that. Something that's developed in the womb, someone's developed in a dark place that has potential to not only change, the mother and the father and their families, but something that is formed in darkness that has the ability and the potential to change the entire world. That is something that's developed in the darkness. And, it's something that, the same way, seeds are put into the ground. Seeds can't grow in light. They can't grow outside. They have to be put in the ground. They have to germinate. They have to be grown in the darkness. So sometimes God has to put you in the darkness so that he can work on you. He can germinate you. He can develop you into a beautiful piece of art, to a beautiful human being, to a person that can sprout like rose from a concrete. And when people see that around you, who are also stuck in the concrete, who are also stuck in darkness, you become a beacon of hope. You become a person that they can see and realize, what, we've come from the same, I'm not gonna say the same, but because everyone's circumstances are different, but the same environment. You're like, if you can make it, I can make it. You're impacting, you're motivating other people that you have sometimes no connection with for them to want to grow, for them to withstand the darkness and develop and grow on their own, so that they can come become a hope. And then that's just a snowball effect for other people who connected to them. So that's why it's so important to realize that the greatest treasures in life are not found outside. They're not found just in sunlight. They're found in the darkness. Whether secret treasures of, I'm just talking about physical treasures, like pirate treasure or stuff in pyramids or secret ruins or dinosaur fossils or just anything. The great treasures and wonders of this world are not found in the light. They're found in darkness. They're found in dark places that we thought are that were abandoned and not good enough and are thrown away or covered or hidden. They're in secret places that we have to find on our own through Jesus Christ. Now I want to introduce another scripture from Matthew, the book of Matthew. It's Matthew 8, verse 23 through 27. Starting with the 23rd verse. Now when he got into a boat, his disciples followed him. And suddenly a great tempest meaning storm, arose from the sea, so that the boat was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. But he said to them, he being Jesus, why are you fearful? You have little faith? Then he arose, rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. So the men marveled, saying, who can this be, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Sometimes, just like, when you drive in a car and you get stuck in a storm for the first time, when you first get your license and you're driving, it starts raining or pouring, or it's very terrifying. It's very scary because not only for yourself, but everyone around you. Especially, you can see it on the highway. Driving on the residential streets is different. When you're driving a highway and it starts pouring, it gets really, it's kind of frightening because you see everyone around you just either slam their brakes, slow down, or just start swerving, or flashes start flying everywhere. It's just like, whoa, what's going on? It's like everyone just forgets how to drive. But when you drive through a couple storms and you drive through a couple, thunderstorms and stuff like that, you become experienced. And it's the same thing in life when you're facing spiritual storms. When you go through a couple of them, you become experienced. You become battle tested, and you become aware of what you're going through when the next storm hits. And when that happens, you're better prepared mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. And not only that, you're better prepared to help other people through their storms, or better prepared to help your family and friends go through their storms, or better prepared to handle all future storms ahead of you. You feel more self-esteem. You actually get more encouraged. It's like, oh, I'm going through another financial issue. Okay, cool, bet. I'm more encouraged to go to work more, to get more money, to try and promote myself and increase my income. It's you have to look at it from. You have to attack it. You have to attack storms. Don't run from storms. You always have to attack storms. God doesn't allow storms in your life without a purpose. There's always a purpose for the rain. There's always a purpose for your enemies. There's always a purpose for, there's a purpose for everything. There's a purpose for the trials and tribulations. There's a purpose for everything. And, it's the same. That's why in the Bible it says, to pray for your enemies. it's very important to realize that your enemies have a purpose in your life. If you went through life without any enemies, you would never improve as a person. If you always live in your life full of comfort and content, you would never improve as a person. All your attributes and characteristics and your traits, you would never improve at all. There will be no challenges in your life. That's why, it's important to realize that your enemy is there for a purpose, to better you. They're not Your enemies aren't there to bring you down and to defeat you. You will never be defeated ever in your life unless you choose to be defeated. Your enemies have no power over you. It's a mindset. It's like, the Satan and the devil has no power. He only has power when you give him the power. And it's just like, that's why I always tell people. I think Jay-Z has a quote. It's like, don't argue with fools, because from a distance, no one can tell who's who. It's like, when you get caught out of character, you get grouped with the enemy. You look just like the enemy. That's why, trying to maintain your peace is so important. And realizing that your enemies are there not to get you out of character. Your enemies are there to elevate you to the next person. Your enemies are there to get you to the next season of life, to push you to the next season of life. And you can switch that mindset, and you can take a step back and realize, okay, this person is coming at me, or this financial debt is coming, or this boss I don't like, or this relationship is not working, or this girl is trying to get at me, or this guy is trying to get at me, or just anything in life that you feel is not God sent. It's a test. It's like, okay, am I gonna let this affect me, or am I gonna keep doing what I have to do and doing it the right way to get around it, to get where I need to go? Your final destination doesn't change. The path isn't going to be, vast and wide. The path is always narrow, but it's never straight. It's always going to be very narrow and a bunch of turns, twists, blockades, setbacks, circles. You're going to get, the destination is always here. It's always ahead of you, but you have to go through a lot of stuff to get that. Don't take the easy road that's wide and the destination's right there, because you're never going to grow through that. Going through the narrow road with all the trials and tribulations is going to be able to, grow and develop you into a person that you never really thought you would be. I never would be in this position if I didn't go through all the things in my life. I want to be blessed with a great job in the city of Houston, living by myself in Houston, without all my trials and tribulations. I would have never gotten to my middle school or my high school or Penn State, or survived this long if I didn't go through all the things that I've went through. Storms do two things. One, they strengthen you through adversity, but also they wash away things that are waiting for you at your final destination. It's like, like in the verse, and it says in verse 24, and suddenly a great tempest arose. Tempest is, if you look at the definition, I forgot what it is off top, but it's like a change in the atmosphere before certain things come. So it's like, when you think about it, when a storm comes in your life, or in the Bible says a tempest comes in your life, a change is coming. You're about to change it to the next season. But for the change it to the next season, you have to go through the rain, you have to go through the snow, through the hail. So if you think about it, if you realize, okay, I'm going through something right now, that means something is cooking up. God is cooking up something for me at the end. There's something brewing in the atmosphere that I have to get through the atmosphere. I have to get through the storm system to get to my goal, to get to my destinations. And to think back, if you go back to the Bible verse, verse 26, Jesus said to them, "Why are you fearful? You have little faith." And I think that's so powerful. It's just like, wow. And if you just think about it for 1 second, you're with the child of God. You're with, God's son. You're literally standing right next to him, and you're still afraid. It's like, it's human nature to be afraid of things. And it's like, even though we have the Almighty next to us, we're still afraid of things. And it's just like, how are you supposed, you're with God, you're sitting next to him, and it's like, how is God and Jesus supposed to elevate you, promote you to the next season when you don't even have enough strength to survive this season? It's like God is sitting right next to you. He's literally telling you, I got you, relax. I'm sleeping, so you should be sleeping. I'm dreaming, so you should be dreaming. There's no reason for you to worry when I'm with you. But sometimes we slip back into the physical world of things. We think that we're in control of everything, that we have to handle everything on our own, and we forget that we have someone who's holding us up by our right hand, who can handle all of our problems. So, and I think that when we realize that, we need to not only strengthen ourselves and not only endure storms and persevere through storms, but also we need to strengthen our faith in our life and everything that we do. A lot of times when we go through storms, we question our faith. We don't think our faith is strong enough. We don't rely on our faith. We try to rely on ourselves physically, and we try to get through things on our own. But sometimes we forget Jesus brought us here on purpose. So if he brought us on purpose, there's a purpose for him to get us out. There's an expected end. It's like in Jeremiah 29:11 that, God has a plan for you to give you hope in the future. There's an expected end. There's a purpose for everything. And when we kind of realize of why we're here, and what we're doing, why the storm is here, and what the storm means, you should be happy that you're going through a storm, because when the storm passes, when you survive it, there's a whole bunch of blessings waiting for you just to be thrown upon you. And I think that it's very crucial that we look at the verse that verse 25. Then his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. Like, Jesus was sleeping. So when you think about it, Jesus was sleeping. What do you do when you sleep? You dream. So Jesus was dreaming about their future. He was dreaming about their season. He was dreaming about what's going to happen. It's just like, and when you think about that and you take it to your own life, Jesus, when you think that you're going through a storm and you're by yourself, don't think about it as you're alone. Think about it as Jesus is dreaming about your future. Think about it as dreaming and sleeping and dreaming and manifesting your future. I think that's just so important that we, like I said, there's two sides to every coin. You can realize the one side of the coin that, okay, you're going through a storm, or you can realize the second side of the coin is that there's a whole blessing and purpose and plan and expected end for me with a future and a hope. As I kind of, bring this message to a close, I want to leave you, I guess, some final tips and pointers about storms. And one is just the main thing I want to just kind of cement here is stop running from the storms. Whether you have to get that tattooed on you, put on a plaque on your wall, get it painted, write it down, make a Google Doc, whatever you have to do, stop running from storms. Because when you run from storms, you're evading what God has sent to elevate you. And it's just like, if you think about it from a geographical perspective, the eye of the storm is in the middle of the storm. So when you're running away from the storm, you're actually not evading the storm, you're actually lengthening the time of the storm. You're running away from the eye of the storm. You're going to be in the storm forever. But if you face the storm head on, and you get to the eye of the storm is where the great calm is, just like it says in the Bible. That's where all the blessings are. You have to persevere through the storm. If not, you're just running. You're literally, the eye of the storm is where the blessings are. If you're running away from the storm, you're literally evading what God has sent to elevate you. Two, when you're running from storms, it's like you're encouraging the enemy. You're empowering the enemy. It's like, okay, it's like if you're at a job or a school, or you have a teacher that doesn't like you, or a boss that doesn't like you, and you're running from class, you're not doing your work right. You're not doing your work right. You're not doing your job right. You're letting them get to you. It's just like they feel empowered. You're giving them the power. You're taking the power away from yourself and giving it to them. It's like when you let bullies get to you, or people on the internet get to you, on Twitter getting your mentions and get to you. It's just like you're letting them all get to you, and you're giving them the power. But if you can maintain your peace and just focus on what you have to do, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. You have a job. Whether it's X, Y, and Z, you need to do X, Y, and Z. But as soon as you start letting them get to you, that's when they have power, and that's when they start, their spirits of depression and anxiety and stress start to trickle down onto you. When that happens, it's a snowball effect, and it's really hard to get out of that snowball effect. When that happens, you start falling behind in your studies. You start falling behind at work. When that happens, you're going to academic probation if you're in school, or you get fired if you're at a job. So that's why it's so important that if you run away from storms, you're empowering the enemy. Third, when you run away from storms, you're evicting what God has sent you. 1 Peter 5:10 says, "But may the God of all grace, who called us to his eternal glory by Jesus Christ, after you have suffered a while, perfect, establish, and strengthen, and settle you." I think that's so important that he literally says that when you go through many trials and tribulations, he's going to make you perfect. He's going to establish you in places that you weren't supposed to be at. He's going to establish you in your classroom. He's going to establish you in your workplace. He's going to establish you into a perfect relationship for you with the perfect partner. He's going to establish you He's gonna make you stronger. He's gonna make you. He's gonna settle you down. He's gonna make you calm. He's gonna put you in a, green pastures of milk and honey. He's gonna put you in a place where that's promised to you. But you can't. But you're never gonna get to that point. He's never going to be able to settle you if you don't trust him through the storm. If you're running away from him, one, that means you're questioning your faith, and two, that means you don't believe in him. And that's exactly what the devil wants. That's exactly what Satan wants, for you to question your faith in God and run away. Because when you do that, you're giving the power to the devil, Satan, instead of giving all the glory and praise and following the footsteps of your faith in God. And my last point I want to leave you all with is that, remember, when you're going through storms and you're going through trials and tribulations of many kinds, that you're entrusted to win. It's kind of like a spread in betting. You're the favorite. It's gonna happen, and it's in the Bible. In John 14:27, peace I leave with you, peace I give you. I will not give you as the world gives you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Peace is the most powerful thing on this planet. If you can maintain your peace through trials and tribulations, if you can maintain your peace through enemies, in the enemy's face, if you can maintain your peace on social media, at work, in school, in the public, in any domain, you're the most powerful person in the room, in that environment, in the world. When you start to question, when you start to question yourself, when you start to lose your peace and start getting out of character, that's when you start to lose yourself. That's when you lose the battle. That's when you start giving them other people empowerment, and that's when you start to get taken advantage of. That's when people start to paint pictures of you that's not accurate. People have you can have a perfect year, 364 days, and that one day out of the year that you act out of character, people want to label you as that. Whether it's in a relationship, you can have a perfect relationship the entire year, and that one day out of the whole year, y'all break up because of something that you did. Or at a job, you get fired because that one day out of the entire year, you did something bad and now you're fired. Or you get expelled from school, or suspended, or you have to drop a class because one day out of the year you did bad on an exam, or whatever the case may be. That never always maintain your peace, because if you lose your peace, that's when you get taken advantage of. That's when you lose your power. That's when you lose everything that was entrusted to you and all your blessings. Now you have to go through another storm just to get all that back. When the entire time, if you maintain your peace, you'll get everything that's promised for you without any trials and tribulations. You just maintain your peace. Keeping your peace through storms lessens the blow that you receive. Lessens, and when I mean blow, I don't mean physically. You're always gonna get battered up physically. And I don't mean physically as in your personal appearance. That might be a factor too, but you will face hardships of that. I mean blows that are going to dampen you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. If you can maintain your peace, all of those will be undamaged. They will be, they won't be affected in any way. That's why it's so important that when you can maintain your peace, you're not only empowering yourself, but you're everyone around you who's going through the same trials and tribulations, connected or not connected with you, will also want to maintain their peace just to follow you, because they know that you're doing something that they're not doing, but they say that you're benefiting and you're staying 10 toes down, and they see that you're staying true to yourself while you're still getting everything that you have to do done in life done. So that's why it's so important. But that's it for my message of No Umbrella. This is my latest video, and I apologize for the 5-month hiatus. I am going to try and be more consistent with these. Hopefully when I start my job, my first paycheck, I will be buying a camera and a stand, so this will be the last phone video I do. Hopefully, we'll see. Fingers crossed. But I encourage you all to just give me feedback, share, repost. And it's not for clout purposes. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to reach more people. And this is something I'm very passionate about. And when I reach more people, I get more feedback. When I get more feedback, I get better at doing this. I get better at talking. I get better at my content. I get better at my delivery. So I encourage all of you just to like. Please comment me. Comment on my videos. Please direct message me. And I just encourage you to, if you know someone going through some dark times and you just want, and you gives them encouragement. I encourage you just to send them these videos. I want to get, we're all connected, on this planet. We're all human beings. So, and we're all going through struggling. So why struggle by ourselves when we can struggle together and we can all make it out together? If you have any questions that weren't answered in this video, or that you just need some more guidance on, all my social medias are listed. My email is listed. I want to do more Q&A videos down the road. Or I haven't done one yet, but I want to do one. Hopefully, my next video will be a Q&A. I'm actually really thinking about doing that. So I just encourage you all to just give me as much feedback as possible. Until next time, I pray over all of you. I hope all is well. I hope all your family and friends as well. And I hope you maintain your peace and your health until next time. Bye. Take care. Thank you for watching. Stay prayed up. Don't worry, brother.